we are in our probably our last segment or our last hour anyway of October 7th. So talked about a lot of things today. Didn't know that I could actually talk so much about things, but apparently I can. So one of the things I do want to mention, I talked about certification earlier with DRI and BCI and the benefits, and maybe at some point Brock will be able to join us either later today or maybe tomorrow to talk about it more. But we'll see what happens. I wanted to talk about, then I also sit on the advisory board of directors. Oh, somebody joined us.
Okay, there we go. I shut down my web browser and we should be good to go.
Okay, everything sound better for you?
Yep, all way better. I'm not getting all of that.
Oh, good.
Delayed.
Well, welcome, Joe. I've actually wanted to talk to you a couple of times, but I know you're a busy guy. So
we never seem to have gotten together.
No, if you're not busy with DRIE, you're busy entertaining us with your band. So,
well, I'll be a band of one this afternoon.
Ooh, a solo act.
Well, couldn't get the band together, unfortunately, due to COVID.
Yeah.
So, I'll be entertaining you from the comfort of my home office.
Well, first of all, can you tell us about DRIE? And when I say DRIE for anyone listening to this later, DRIE is DRIE, Disaster Recovery Information Exchange, right?
That is correct. And I think the key word there is that last initial exchange. We are a volunteer-based, member-funded, and also sponsor-funded organization with chapters right across Canada. We have an affiliate in the Caribbean as well. And our main purpose is to provide a forum through various means for our members to exchange information about the BCM profession, to bring in industry experts for the continuing education and accreditation of our professionals. It really is there to nurture it from an overall BCM/resiliency profession. And, we achieve this through many ways. Many of our chapters will hold regular symposiums, again, where we bring in these experts to present on various topics. We try to keep them very much in terms of leading edge and various skill areas or disciplines. They could be in business continuity, crisis management. Of course, the hot topic now is all the lessons learned from the current coronavirus pandemic. So those are the sorts of things that we do. We do mentoring, where we will, try and sit down and mentor up and coming BCM professionals, though just entering the profession. Mm-hmm. We encourage a lot of dialogue, a lot of networking. Unfortunately, it's very hard to do that because we can't hold our physical face-to-face symposiums these days, and will not likely be able to do for the foreseeable future. But we're continuing the dialogue through a series of, for DRIE Toronto in specific, as I'm president of the Toronto chapter, for ongoing series of webinars. And some of the interesting things that we're doing now, like for example, is holding some webinars regarding return to the workplace. Mm-hmm. Even though we may be in the midst of potentially, another resurgence of COVID-19, yet in some instances they are looking for people to return physically to the workplace. And so there's some interesting webinars we've had on how to do that, how to prepare properly for that. So there's some examples of the things that we'll do for our members.
How do people get in touch with DRIE? Because you mentioned you have different chapters. So is there kind of an overarching group that they contact and then find their way to DRIE, or do they just go to, DRIE Toronto from there? How do they do that?
Well, to begin with, each of the DRIE chapters are independently run. We do collaborate. We do try to get together to exchange ideas, and that's usually at the president's level. So we can keep in touch with what's happening with each other's chapters. However, we do have a common touch point, and our entry point or our portal is our website, DRIE.org. In there, you'll see all of the various chapters, and then you can click on the link for each one of the chapters depending on which geographical region that you are. So we have one out in Atlantic, we have one in Quebec, we have 3 in Ontario, which is Ottawa, Toronto, and Southwest Ontario, based primarily out of Kitchener, Waterloo. And we have one DRIE Central, which is based in Winnipeg, DRIE West, which is based in Calgary, and we have an affiliate chapter called EPIC in Vancouver. And as I mentioned, another affiliate chapter down in the Caribbean in Trinidad and Tobago.
How did that one come about? That's interesting.
It was actually our previous president, Frederick Castleman, was very instrumental in reaching out internationally to some countries to see who were interested. And interestingly enough, somehow the message got through to a gentleman down in Trinidad and Tobago who was forming a similar association to DRIE. And they asked if they could join us as an affiliate to make, gain benefit from all of our exchange of information. And we gladly welcomed them into the fold. In fact, I think it was last year, they had gone into a hiatus, but they relaunched their chapter last year, and I was very glad and honored to be a part of their relaunches as I virtually came in and talked to their members about DRIE and the benefits of joining the DRIE family.
Yeah, that's great. It's still, who knows? You could be expanding somewhere else after Trinidad.
It's very possible. The one thing we haven't done, obviously, is reach back into the States, but that's always a good possibility. I understand they have a lot of different associations down there,
Yeah,
but
there's quite
that's definitely a possibility. And I guess, Alex, I don't know, you may even have more information on that than I do.
Yeah, I've spoken with people from Business Recovery Managers Association, Association of Contingency Planners, and a couple of other ones that have been on the show. There's quite a few down there, and the different ones in different states, and but it would be kind of good to build some partnerships, I'm sure. Which hey, I'm talking to the president of DRIE. I'm not saying anything you probably haven't already done or working on anyway. So. I'm just kind of curious. You mentioned a president. So does that mean there's a president of all of DRIE? Because you said they were all individual, and then you said the president, or were you referring to you?
No, I'm president of the Toronto chapter specifically. So each chapter has its own executive or board of directors, if you will, and their own president. So, I mean, our organizations are somewhat similar, as you might see in any other volunteer organization. We're structured with a president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, and then we have various what we call director portfolios. So, in our instance, in DRIE Toronto, we have someone in charge of our program, which is our quarterly symposiums. So, coming up with, topics, themes, sourcing speakers, that sort of thing. We have a director of membership who's responsible for maintaining the member database and ensuring that all of the membership fees are being collected. We have a treasurer, I think, as any organization has.
Mm-hmm.
We have an education director, and that education director is responsible for going out and liaising with the post-secondary educational institutes to see if there's anybody out there interested or taking courses in either business continuity, emergency management, etc. that would be interested in becoming either future members. They can join as a student member at a much reduced price fee, and as well as encouraging them to enter the profession. So that's kind of the structure that we do have within our organization, and it's similar in the other chapters across Canada, except some of the other kind of director at large portfolios may vary from chapter to chapter. But typically, it'll have a president, vice president, treasurer, and a communications role, as we do, because we're getting much more active on social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, as well as ensuring that our website is constantly being refreshed, up to date, and up to modern standards.
Now, DRIE Toronto, you're one of the sponsors of CRT, correct?
We're what's called a participating sponsor. So our contribution comes in the fact that we provide resources, people, to sit in on the planning committee. The planning committee will gather together, and we're pretty much together all year round, meeting to, let's just say, the moment this particular conference ends, we're going to be doing the after action report, gathering in all the feedback, looking at what worked well, what needs improvement, determining what all the speaker evaluations say, so we know who are good speakers and perhaps who may not have um, I guess presented as we were hoping. So those are the sorts of things that we'll be doing, and then determining, okay, what are we going to do next year? What can we do that's going to be even better than what we've done from a content perspective? So the planning committee looks after the content, and as such, DRIE Toronto is also part of the I'm going to say triumvirate of three co-hosts, partnering with the Disaster Recovery Institute Canada and the Business Continuity Institute Canada, as we collaborate together to develop content for each year's conference. So that's primarily our role. And of course, we work very, very closely with McGregor Communications and the CRT conference in general, with Dan Joyce and all of his team, as they work out, and provide all of the logistics and facilities and a lot of the organization and technical capabilities for this conference.
Now, I'm sure putting on a conference is challenging. Finding speakers and choosing who should speak, present, and things like that. That's challenging at any time. What were some of the challenges, because of COVID? That had to have given you guys some bigger headaches.
Well, I'm going to say yes and no. We've always met virtually. It's always been conference or Zoom calls. So in that regard, that really didn't change as a result of COVID. The challenge is that one of the big values that we've received very positive feedback on in previous conferences is the peer networking, peer-to-peer networking, where people do have that opportunity to sit down face-to-face and engage in casual conversations, whether that's exchanging ideas, whether that's exchanging various feedbacks on some of the sessions they attended. There is unfortunately that whole live feel and networking aspect to it that was a huge value added component of a conference. Unfortunately, that's the biggest challenge. We couldn't do that this year. So how do you encourage that peer-to-peer networking? And I think that Dan and McGregor Communications have done an awesome job of putting together a virtual forum with things like the peer-to-peer forum, the networking tabs, those sorts of things to encourage it. Is it as effective? Is it as good? as physical face-to-face. You know what? Time will tell. We'll see from the feedback that we get if it worked well. I think the ultimate goal will be, and I really don't want to put words in the committee's mouth, but I think we're all hoping that we can get back to face-to-face
Mhm.
conferences, in the future.
Yeah, that's what Dan said when he stopped by. He was, hopefully next year we'll be face to face.
Hmm.
And really nothing beats that. Even when you're sitting in a session listening to a speaker, you may be at a table with three other people, but that's two other people that you uh, wouldn't be able to talk to otherwise.
Yep.
And so missing that, or even just walking up to a speaker saying, "Hey, Joe, I liked your presentation." It's a little difficult to get that same experience, virtually.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely. And you typically get too that at the end of a presentation, if somebody has forgotten to ask a question, something didn't occur to them, and more towards the end, they have that opportunity to kind of chase down the speaker and pose that question one-on-one, or if maybe they didn't want to pose it to the room in general. So there's that opportunity too.
well, I'm going to maybe not steal any thunder from tomorrow, but I know there's a closing panel. But I'm just kind of curious, with your experience being president of DRIE and putting this conference together, where do you see things going in the next 6 months to a year, with conferences or even the industry in general?
Well, I guess those are really two different pillars. The industry, let me focus on that. Um, we in DRIE Toronto held an interesting webinar yesterday with a group called BC Management, Cheyenne Marling, who has spoken in these
Oh yeah,
conferences in
yeah,
the
yeah.
past. Yep. And she participated on one of the panels. And she was looking at the future of the profession based on surveys she's done globally. And she said she's very encouraged by what she's seeing, that the future of the profession is very solid. And in fact, if anything else, COVID-19 has helped to reinforce the importance of resiliency planning in many different facets. And we're not talking specifically just pandemic plans, because this has caused the invocation of a lot of things, including crisis management,
Mhm.
including a lot of contingency plans for things like sending everybody to work from home and all the challenges it's done there. There's been a lot of lessons learned out of that, and it's going to fall to the resiliency planners to take those lessons learned and incorporate that into program improvements going forward, so that should we be hit again. And also, there's I think some predictions that we will be hit again, that the very changing nature
Mhm.
of viruses globally is really going to result in us seeing further these things. We're not going to have to wait another 100 years for a major global pandemic to occur.
If you like that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.